Hello everyone. So welcome to another session of Kali Linux. So today we are going to see how we can anonymize ourselves more apart from just using Tor. So I'm going to introduce you to something called proxy chains. So what does the word proxy mean? So proxy basically means like you, instead of you, somebody else is doing your work. So basically, if you want to anonymize yourself, you do not wish anyone or the your target to know your IP address or even the geolocation in that matter. So proxy chains help you to anonymize yourself to certain extent, and we do have various types of proxy chains depending on your work. You can choose any type of the proxy chain. So before we move forward, let's just see the proxy chain file. So I'm going to use the nano editor. So nano etc. So if you are not sure of your proxy chain file, sorry, if you are not sure of your proxy chain file, you can just go to cd etc and just list all those proxy chains or all the files, you can say, which are in etc. So you will be able to see all the files that are in etc. So just search for the word p and you'll be able to see here the proxy chains 4.conf. In most of the other Kali Linux systems, it can just be proxy chains.conf. Okay, so let's just now just go to nano and proxy chains. So here you can just put prox and then press tab. Uh, then it would show you the uh, file name. Okay, just etc and just press prox. So it's already showing you, or you can just press tab. So it will just uh, take the default name which is there here, proxy chains conf in etc, and then press enter. So here we are in the configuration file of proxy chains. So for using proxy chains along with Tor, the idea here is Tor certainly gives you a certain level of anonymity, but then not to an extent where you can do something like scanning or footprinting, right? So we are going to use different proxy chains so that we can anonymize ourselves to a certain extent. Okay, so here are the different types of proxy chains. The first one is dynamic chain. So dynamic, as the word suggests, it means basically like you are um, having a certain set of proxies. Let me just share my whiteboard and explain the different types. Yeah, apologies if my drawing is bad, but I just want you to understand the different types of uh, proxy chains. So you have A, B, C, and you can say D. So in dynamic, or we can see first, I'll just show you this one. Yeah, you can see a strict chain here. So let me just show you what the strict chain is about. Editor go. So basically, strict chain is nothing but you just go from A to B, then B to C, C to D. So there is a, like the word suggests, all the proxy chains should be covered. Okay, so A to B, B to C, C to D. If that is not the case, what can happen is in strict chain, if one of the proxies just fail, then the complete chain just goes or it doesn't work. So that was about strict chain. So if you come to dynamic chain would be like A to maybe C, then maybe B to C to um, again C to D, C to B, and then C to D, anything as you uh, as you as it just finds a working proxy for you in dynamic chain. Okay, so it doesn't have to follow a particular chain. Like you need to mention here proxy, proxy suppose 192.0.0.1, then you need to take another proxy 127.62 point something something. So you need for dynamic chain, it will just find a working proxy. It can go back and forth to each proxy just to make the connection successful. Whereas strict chain, it has to follow a strict order, and this strict chain is basically it's beneficial if you use it for your you can say your um, paid proxies. Okay, so if you have your own paid proxies, then you can go for strict chain. But most of us in cybersecurity or the ethical hacking domain, we used dynamic chains, or even like we have something called random chains. So there is a round robin chain too. So this particular is more like the uh, it is basically depending on the chain length. So it doesn't it is similar to dynamic chain in certain ways, but it's more a bit more complicated than dynamic chain. Random chain is each connection will done by via random proxy, and you can also um, you can also create a certain order in random chain. Like your if you want to try a particular proxy for certain number of times, you can do that. And the same thing for random chain. If you want to try a proxy or to use the proxy 5 times, then you can do that as well. So these are this is the config file basically. So you have all the settings. If you want to enable anything here, so you just need to remove this hash. Okay, so I've just enabled random chain now. So if you want to disable it again, just put the hash back. So you can see a dynamic chain is enabled here. But if you don't want dynamic chain and if you want strict chain, then you can just remove the hash and then it's enabled. So right now for our exercise, we will be using dynamic chain. So this is about the different types of proxy chains. And then there is something called proxy DNS. In your file, it might be enabled. So you need to search this and you need to remove this part. Okay, so proxy DNS requests no leak for DNS data. So what does this no leak mean? So basically no leak, DNS leaks means like your particular DNS, the IP address of your DNS might be leaked. Okay, so we don't want that, so that's why we use this proxy DNS. We enable this, and then uh, you have the wait time, etc. So you can just keep it as it is. And then finally the part comes where you have to use um, okay, before going forward, let me just explain this SOX5 HTTP SOX4 HTTP. So they've just given us some examples here, the format by which we can use these particular proxy chains. So SOX5 basically means it's a type of protocol like similar to HTTP, but SOX5 and SOX4 are more of the proxy protocols. Okay, and compared to SOX 5, SOX 4 has some less features, you can say. Like it cannot transfer via IPv6 protocols, and it is basically SOX 5 is more reliant when it comes to the real-time world than SOX 4. Okay, so we may learn this in detail in maybe advanced levels of your hacking sessions, but right now you just have to know that there is SOX 5 and SOX 4, and we prefer SOX 5 most of the time, but you can also use SOX 4. Then you have HTTP, like the namesake suggests, it's used for HTTP protocols. So basically here, what they are trying to see is you use a proxy IP address, you mention the type of proxy, the proxy address, the port on which you want to do the proxy, and this basically suggests like the username and the password. Usually the username and passwords are not for free proxies, but for paid ones you will get a username and a password, so you can use that. So here, another thing about paid proxies and unpaid proxies, we most of the time use unpaid proxies. The reason being, it gives you a more anonymity level, because your data is not there about, like if someone goes and sees your um, data for suppose you have purchased a proxy, okay, and the act of your purchasing itself is like you have given them your data, like all maybe your card details, your location, your name, etc. So we don't want that, right? So we always prefer to use um, like um, free proxies. But in some cases, free proxies, or rather in most cases, free proxies are not mm, as versatile as the paid ones are. The paid ones are more robust and you will get your results quickly. Whereas free proxies, you must have to wait for hours and hours, maybe just for a single scan. Okay, so that can be like very tedious. So some in terms of learning purposes, some people prefer to buy a proxy so that they can save time. And yeah, maybe if you have an exam and you need to prepare in certain limit of time, then you can go for purchasing a proxy for yourself and do all the practicals. Whereas if you want to do something in real time and you want to stay completely anonymous, then obviously the free proxies must be your choice. So now let's enable the proxies for Tor. Okay, so default set to Tor. So this port number 9050 is the default port for a Tor service. Okay, so there are two things about Tor. There is Tor browser and there is Tor service. So right now we are talking about Tor service. So if you want to use Tor and your proxy together, then you need to enable this. Maybe your particular system wouldn't have this, okay, like your default file would not have these two lines, you must add them. So here we are going to add both SOX 4 and SOX 5 so that we get more, I mean, just like two extra um, better results, or just for the purpose of exercise, a bit better understanding. So we have used dynamic chain and SOX 4, and 127.0.0.1 is nothing but your own loopback address. So what does that mean is it is your own IP address, but just your loopback address. Okay, so you're just using your own loopback address for Tor, and on the port 9050 is the default port on which Tor listens. So we are going to use the 9050 port. So after making all the changes, you need to press like Control O so that you can write it out. and file name to write etc proxy chains 4.conf. Just press enter. Okay, so permissions denied. So what does this mean? So I think we did not use the sudo command because we are not logged in as root. You see, we did not use sudo before nano. So another thing, only the root user can directly use commands here. Else you need to specify the group, the sudo, and then nano etc proxy chain conf, and then just press your enter your password, and you can write it out since I've already made the changes. Let's just cross verify. Yeah, proxy DNS is enabled and your proxy chains are also enabled for Tor. So just press Control O, write out, and then press enter. So now it shows you wrote 160 lines, and then just exit Control and X. So you've exited. Now comes the tricky part. Or so before you go on the browser, we today we are going to see a website called dnsleaktest.com. So this particular website shows your location. Okay, it shows location or your IP address. So let's just use proxy chains and Firefox. I'm going to open my browser using Firefox and www.dnsleaktest.com. Okay, so I'm gonna press enter, but you will see that nothing would happen. Okay, maybe our yes. So you see there's a timeout and it shows as unable to connect. So this happened mostly because we haven't enabled Tor and it shows need more proxies error. Why? Because we haven't enabled Tor from our service, right? So we need to first enable Tor. So you have stop tor.service, start tor.service. So we are going to first enable the tor.service. Okay. So once you're enabled it, now just check your Tor service sudo system dot, click status Tor dot service. Now I want you to recall another command which we used for starting Tor in our maybe in our previous sessions of Tor. So you see the active status is shown as inactive. So let's just start a Tor service. Sudo system dot Tor dot service. So now let's again check the status. Now the status shows us active. Now we are going to use we are going to basically log in using or open our browser since using Tor and the proxies together. So the idea here or the logic here is that the proxy conf file would be first targeted, and then it goes to the top part, and then the IP address and the port which we have used, it uses that particular port and IP address along with the Tor browser itself to give us a certain level of anonymity. So make sure your browser or whichever browser you're using is closed. So for us, it's already closed. So now we are going to use proxy chains, Firefox www.dnsleaktest.com. So it might take time sometimes to load. So you can see here how it's going. It's using the dynamic chain. And now let me just show you. This is a particular IP address. It shows you the location too. Maybe we have some cache or our memory is low. Maybe that's why it's not showing it here. But it would definitely show for you if you have proper memory in your system. So let me just copy and paste this here. Now I'm going to close this. Okay, so now the channel has been closed. Now I'm going to stop our Tor service. Just check status. Yeah, it's inactive. Now I'm going to start it again. Okay, so our browser is also closed. Now I'm going to use the proxy change command, Firefox and www.dnslink.test.com. So make sure that you test your DNS so that you are anonymous. Sometimes people might just go and do the, I mean, they will just configure their file, but they will not test it, and their IP will always be shown in some cases. So make sure that your IP is changing every time you use. So let me just copy here, and where is our text editor? Let's just paste it here. So now you can see both our IP addresses are different. So this is how you can get a certain level of anonymity. And definitely these are not my IP addresses. Yeah, so we have gained a certain level of anonymity. And if you want to get more anonymity, then you can use the free proxies out there and configure your file and to use those proxies and open a particular website. So we will see that in the next session. So see you in the next session. Thank you.